So I wanted to talk a little about the supposed bombshell, that a transcript from Bolton's books coming out, and it's showing that there was a quid pro quo. Now, there's a lot to say about this. The first thing is, let's look at specifically what the transcript says. I'm not so sure this is good news for the Democrats. All it says is Trump suggested possibly doing these investigations into the Bidens before aid was set. But that's not a quid pro quo. In fact, our leaders, from presidents to congresspeople, all the time probably bat around suggestions. Hey, what do you think about this? What do you think about this? That's not actions. That's not even suggesting or commanding actions to take place. It's discussions that occur behind the scenes. This sort of stuff probably happens all the time. The difference is we've never had unelected bureaucrats that were engaged in a coup against the sitting president of the United States that leaked information from private conversations that he has with people, conversations that he's having with world leaders, etc. So who knows if we had every conversation of Barack Obama or W. Bush or Bill Clinton or H.W. Bush or even Reagan, what kind of things we would have heard. We have no idea. What we do know is the quid pro quo never happened because the aid was released without getting the things Trump suggested he might want. And we know that there's no one that had any proof whatsoever of Trump saying, yes, it's either a quid pro quo or nothing. We don't have any proof of that. And even beyond that, and I'll get to this in a minute, we don't have any evidence whatsoever speaking to Trump's intent or motivation for why he wanted said quid pro quo. Now, what this tells is a further story of the coup and the deep state and their actions against Trump. In order for a transcript like this from someone in the executive branch to be released, it has to go through a process where it's vetted from someone inside the administration to make sure that classified information isn't being released. Well, it just so happens that that vetting process is being led up by, get ready for this, you know who? Lieutenant Colonel Vindman's brother. That's right, one of the very people that smugly testified against Trump, who is a corrupt person who was basically asked by the Ukrainian government to be the head of their military 4 times. His brother just so happens to be the one that was tasked with getting this transcript and making sure all the information was on the up and up. And then it just so happened someone leaked this information to the press. I'm sick and tired of this going on within our unelected bureaucrats. We're told over and over, don't worry, Barr and people connected to Trump and the DOJ, they're going to get to the bottom of all these criminals in the deep state. Yet over and over, with impunity, they're allowed to leak. They're allowed to go against the interest of this president and our country over and over and over again. And they do it with their allies, the propagandists in the mainstream media. They selectively leak stuff. They leak conversations at Trump's call. Anything they can do to make Trump look bad. And they're not just making him or the Republicans look bad. They make us all look bad in the world stage. Remember when they leaked Trump in a private conversation, said S-hole country? Now they're leaking stuff that could hurt Trump in the impeachment. It just so happened to come out on the eve of when we're going to vote for whether or not witnesses should be allowed. Just so happened. So like I said, even with this information coming out, it doesn't to me show that Bolton's saying there was a definitive quid pro quo. And beyond that, why would we trust Bolton in the first place? Here's somewhere that you can criticize Trump and blame him. He claims he puts the best people around him. Garbage. John Bolton is one of the worst people in Washington. He's a neocon warmonger whose foreign policy's been wrong for 2 decades every single time he suggests something. He's interested in getting money for himself and the military-industrial complex, and he doesn't care how many Americans or people around the world need to die for that to happen. He's a scumbag of the highest order. And when Trump put him around him, I knew it, and anyone thinking knew that this was someone who would backstab Trump the first chance he got. He would be against Trump's idea that he campaigned on of, why are we involved in all these quagmires in the Middle East? So now those chickens come home to roost because of Bolton. The last thing I'll say is we could also put blame at the Republicans' feet for this. I've been saying on my channel, I'm one of the only people in the country I've heard say this consistently. The Republicans made a huge error in their defense of Trump. It was okay to talk about we don't have definitive proof this is a quid pro quo. But that was the argument they focused the most on, and that is not the winning argument. And I said the reason it's not a winning argument is if you put all of your eggs in that basket, it will allow the Democrats and the corrupt media to claim up until Election Day, oh, we heard another person who claimed they heard a person who claims they heard Trump's staff or claimed they heard Trump say to someone else that there was a quid pro quo. And the corrupt media, that's just mouthpieces and propagandists for the intel agencies and the deep state, will run that story 24/7 up until Election Day. The argument the Republicans should have been making is, we don't think there was a quid pro quo, but even if there was, Trump had every right, in fact, a duty to investigate the Bidens for the corruption and possibility of misusing $1 billion of our tax dollars, and to investigate and make sure we're not giving money to a country that interfered in the 2016 election. And there's more than enough evidence on both accounts to justify an investigation. That's why we should see witnesses such as Hunter Biden, Joe Biden. We should see Victor Shokin, the prosecutor that was forced to be fired, and many others. Litsenko, the prosecutor that State Department officials such as Yovanovitch told to drop cases into Obama allies. All of that information should be on public, in display. It is a direct refutation to the impeachment articles. It shows that as the head of the executive branch that's charged with enforcing the laws, Trump had every right and duty to look into these crimes that were of such a serious nature. But instead, the Republicans dropped the ball, made it all about quid pro quo, and here we are. So, hey, if you like this video, please like and subscribe. There'll be a link in my description where you can follow me on BitChute, Twitter. You can support me on Patreon and PayPal. I'm not going to be putting out as much material in the coming days because I don't know if you can tell, but I'm kind of sick, congested, fevers, that type of stuff. I'll be all right. I'm a hardy individual. But I just wanted to let you know if I sound a little off, that's what's up. But I will be doing a live stream on the Patriot panel this evening. It's going to be on the Patriot Hours channel. I'll put a link up to that once it's up. So that'll be at 10 p.m. Eastern time. So thank you everyone so much and have a good one.